Next we have Councilmember Peralez. Is that here?
Didn't pass these around first, so I'll please pass these around and snag a couple so you can take them to your neighbors. Sandra, first off, thank you very much. Actually, I am very nervous myself personally about an earthquake. I've had nightmares that an earthquake was going to happen while I was in office, and that was maybe the worst thing that would happen. Like that, no joke. That was something that I had coming in. So one of the first conversations I had with our city manager was about what are we doing for, the earthquake that's going to happen. He's kind of like, what are you talking about? No, so I didn't know. I went and actually looked into our Office of Emergency Services. I too went online. I found out, and I said, one of the things would be for me to better understand how to prepare, and what a better way than to be trained as a presenter. So I tried to sign up to be trained as a presenter, is when I found out that we didn't do that anymore. It went through actually a very similar process that you did to realize that we weren't doing very much of anything. So my team and I went down to the Office of Emergency Services, down to the police department, toured their facility, saw how dilapidated things were, how out of date, how understaffed, and really under budgeted they were. And it used to be, the OES supervisor used to be directly under the city manager. After when? The 89 earthquake. Several years pass, budget cycles go through, priorities change, and you kind of go, well, why is this person under the city manager, right? It's not as crucial. So they put them then under the fire department. And then they kind of got tucked away, and throughout the years, their budget just got slashed. And I think that we highlighted that last year as a full council. We asked for a full presentation, a study session. We got a study session, and really were given a really great up-to-date on how underprepared we are. And so one of the things was bringing back, this volunteer education or preparedness, emergency preparedness. Mary, thank you as well. I was able to hear about how well and successful that was, and we tried to tell people to go right in the neighborhood, and we definitely want you to be able to send us this presentation, because we'll push this out to as many people in the district.
You, but I haven't sent you the finished.
The finished, perfect.
One that's going to be the one that will be.
Yeah, we will send that out and through the newsletter, and we'll make sure that people see it. And we want our community to be as prepared as possible. We are certainly doing our part to try to beef back up the Office of Emergency Services. Because this is insurance, right? It's one of the things that we know certainly we can go 30 years and not need to use it. But actually, we have used it. We have used it, but we have, but not for this, for that big earthquake that we know is coming, and we don't want to be not ready for it.
How about our water mains? Do we have water mains that are in good shape? Because that in San Francisco, that's one of the big risk exposures. Is that?
Yeah. Our water pumps are actually our biggest risk.
Okay.
Because of how much groundwater that we have, and the pumps that we use. Those pumps and the generators that they power up actually power a lot of our electricity as well. So there's a number of things that could go wrong, right? That would put us in a state of a lot of disrepair. So so there's a number of things we're trying to do, but inevitably, I think it will happen. And depending on how bad it is, we will be affected by it.
Right.
Yeah. So nonetheless, though, thank you for.
Well, I'm going to add, the other thing is, the new thing is, don't turn off your gas unless there's a leak, because it may be weeks before PG&E can come out and turn it back on, and you can't turn it back on. They have to. So now they say, if you have a leak, and you can tell if you have a leak by where you can smell it, you can hear it, or if your meter is running really, really fast. And other than that, don't shut it off, but don't light a candle.
Well, I'm looking forward to the video. So thank you.
Thank you.
The update that I wanted to provide was in regards to participatory budgeting for next year. We are put in the same dilemma that we were last year, where due to really a lack of a lot of funds in our general fund and the essential services fund, which is where we pull this money from, the mayor is again saying one or the other. He's saying you can put in a budget document to request money for participatory budgeting, but if you do that, you cannot submit another budget document out of the essential services fund. So it's sort of a one or the other again.
But what's the essential services?
So essential services fund is that's the title that it gets, but essentially it's after we pay for all of our obligations within our general fund, paying on our staff, everything that we have budgeted, we look at what is either the surplus or the deficit that we have. If there is a surplus, then that money, by definition, right, goes into what we call an essential services fund, which is where council and the mayor and, right, we as a community get an opportunity to decide where we want to best spend that money.
So you're fighting with the other.
So we're fighting with the other council districts, yeah, and the mayor.
And the mayor.
They actually get the first stab at it. So
What's
Sam
the
will come out with
potential-
his memo this Friday
Uh-huh.
with his message on where he thinks all the money should go.
But what's the potential, what's the quantity about that may be in there? As an example, what was
yeah.
it this past year, what could it be next year if you know?
Yeah, this past year, I believe it was about 6 million, if I'm not incorrect. And this year, my understanding is it's fluctuating still. We'll hear on Friday when we hear the message. But one of the biggest directions from the mayor will be that, because we have a projected $11 million deficit coming up next year. So not for the budget that we're deciding for, which is the coming year, but the following year after that, 17-18. So the mayor wants to put aside half of that from this year's surplus to kind of prepare for that already, and which will lower the amount that we have in excess to use this year. And he wants to take some one-time funds as well to set aside for that. So there'll be, I couldn't tell you the exact amount, but I imagine it'll be a couple million maybe.
A couple million again to divvy out
The
between the
entire
11 of you.
Yeah, and the mayor, yeah, the 11 of us, yeah. And so the word that I'm getting from him is that we can certainly up it this year, at least at double, which would be about 200,000. I think if I do go that route, which is where I'm leaning, wanting to go, I will probably ask for even more. So last year I didn't follow the rules either. If you guys recall, I did both, right? I submitted a budget documents and I submitted for participatory budgeting. And so this year he's really asked that I don't do that again, that we choose one or the other. So I will do that, and I'm thinking of asking for at a minimum $200,000 for PB, if not more, and even if it has to get chopped down a little bit from the rest of the council districts, fine. And we'll go that route. But I wanted to get feedback from all of you, what your take was on that in regards to how has PB been going. Do you think it would be beneficial to request 200 at a minimum, and then go through the process again next year? I have my sentiment on what I think you all feel, but we can go around and you can give your inputs on it.
Do we have flexibility regarding capital versus operating budget for both of those different types of funds? PB, I know we set it as capital only, but could that be reevaluated?
No, not for
Okay,
PB.
okay.
No, if we do the 200,000 for PB, it would still just be the capital.
Okay, and would it continue to have to be one
One
year
time.
only?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but in the other categories, is that true? So if we put money instead of PB in the emergency, whatever, would we have more flexibility in what projects went forward? Maybe.
Yes and no. I would.
Okay.
You would. You
okay.
would. So it's.
Because you could have us.
Yeah. It's no longer
Go through that.
participatory budgeting. It's me budgeting versus the rest of the council.
But,
So
but a lot of the benefit could be the outreach program where you're getting feedback from the community and then you're getting to kind of make the jigsaw puzzle work as opposed to the voters. So, you know, that might be.
Yeah, the biggest difference really is that if we were to not do participatory budgeting next year, and instead I were to write budget documents on things that, you know, we could use within the community, the biggest difference is my documents can request what would be operational funds, which could be ongoing.
Right.
So there is a difference there. Things that
things.
were cut out this year, right? Like saying you couldn't request more police officers, right? Very simple. We can. When we write our budget documents, we can say we want to beef up the overtime fund for the fire department, or we want to restore engine 30, right? In Delmas Park, right? We can request those things if we're doing it through the council's budget memos. But if we're doing it through PB, just the way that the mayor has set it up right now, it's strictly one-time
So
capital.
in essential
I was next.
Oh, sorry, yeah. And then sorry.
in essential services,
I guess she wants to go.
Okay.
I don't know what you're pointing to. I was just, our eyes connected, so he gave me the
Okay, go ahead.
So in essential services, you have this pool of money, so any one councilman can ask for whatever they want.
Up to the limit of what's in there, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not necessarily divided equally. So it's whatever, who makes the decision on the priority then of what each councilman would get?
How do you fight
If
for
we
the
were to
money?
do PB,
No, not
No.
PB, but essential services.
we do as a council. We
As a
all,
council.
you need 6 votes.
So obviously you'd have something, you could gain more than $100,000.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could, if I could gain consensus of 6 votes on council that they believed that everything that I wrote into a budget document should be funded, I could essentially get the entire essential services fund, approved for whatever it was that I wrote, if I could get the 6 votes. The likelihood is that doesn't happen because we're bad, right? It's kind of a pick and pull, right? Some council members are going to go, well, I like that, but I really want to get this, and so it doesn't tend to get divided up evenly. I'll tell you that much. But for PB, last year what the mayor wanted to do was divide it up evenly if that's what everybody wanted to do. It ended up nobody else really wanted to do it, so.
Okay.
Thank you. I had a good experience, but what is very discouraging during that time is that with traffic and safety, a lot of that stuff was nixed out because of DOT, because of their rules and guidelines and regulations and this and that. And I wish to work on whether a better method of not nixing so many of them. That's one thing that we had frustrations with. The other thing is that the cost of things are so outrageous, so high. I mean, I think they're outrageous, but they're so high, and it was very frustrating because a number of neighborhoods wanted the same things, but because they're so expensive, we couldn't put them on the ballot at all. We couldn't deal with it, and that's where I think I need your help with our community needs your help to say, this is kind of a round circle, turnaround, whatever you want to call it, is $50,000 for one thing, and then it may not be put in stop signs. You may get it, you may not. Just a big long list of them, and I have that list with all of them because there was 61 traffic and safety things that were put in there, but we only could get 10 on the ballot. So that tells you that we had to push all these other ones out for one reason or another. And that's what I want. I don't know, I don't know how to deal with that, but that's where I think you need to look at, because it's your community that's saying, we want this, we want this, we want this.
Yeah. Yeah, so the one thing obviously that PB does is it puts forward a lot of ideas that we don't normally generate on, and it prioritizes them, right, on what it is that the community is looking for. I can certainly take that list, look through that list and say, can I pick out some of the major priorities that I think I could get funded through the budget process, and can I do it myself and be able to get that? The reason I don't support that, I do support what that could achieve. I don't support that because I don't want to lose the momentum on PB.
And you're not getting the momentum. I'm sorry for interrupting. They're not getting the momentum if we can't put it on the ballot. That's our problem. I mean, we got other stuff on there that are really good, but like I said, the majority of them, of those things were traffic and safety, and we weren't able to deal with them.
I would consider it huge momentum from where we were last year to where we're at today, which is, these 23 projects that something will be funded, or a couple of them will be funded. It was the first step, the first year. It was only 100,000. Momentum for me would be, can we keep people engaged?
Yeah.
Can I increase that dollar amount? Which already, and the mayor knew that there's no way I was going to go for 100 grand again. So he's kind of said, look, at a minimum, we can do the 200,000. And my thought and the thought with the team was, if we go that route, we're going to probably ask for more and maybe vet that out, right? But that would be momentum to me. Would be, let's increase this dollar amount. Let's keep people engaged. Let's get it going another year. But I also wanted to make the point to the mayor that, look, if we're going to continue to do this and we want to value the community being involved in participatory budgeting, we shouldn't also make it a trade-off to where then I am restricted from making any sort of request through the budget process to where I can't, I can't ask for any of the other essential services fund. So let me come back.
Yeah, Dee, can I go? I was trying to get your, okay.
Oh, sorry.
So I mean, I'm an early supporter of PB. Everything you said, I totally agree with. I guess the thing that I'm torn about is that I think a lot of people would like ideas that involve continuing funds.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's sort of like, well, this is a terrible choice because so if, just to make sure I understand, if we go the PB route, it has to be one-time capital expenditures. If you did it all, we could have continuing expenditures.
We could, yeah.
Yeah.
They're harder to get. They're harder to get approved because I am.
Okay, that's a good.
I mean, so for instance, last year we got the Office of Immigrant Affairs funded, which was, and it wasn't. I wouldn't even say it was continuing. It really was only 3 years, right? So it wasn't like it was a lifetime.
Yeah.
But it was more than 1 year, more than a one-time expense. But it was $250,000, and it was set over a 3-year basis. We can't do that here, right? We can't do that with PB because we got to look at a one-time capital expense.
And I guess that's, I mean, the idea of keeping the momentum going is a good idea, but I guess that's a flaw I see with PB.
Yeah.
Is if we, I mean, if it was PB was just for capital projects and there was still money to be used for continuing things. I guess that's the one hesitation I have of we're giving up stuff that I mean, I think just from the little bit of PB stuff I went to, there was a lot of interest in stuff that's like, no, you can't do that because it's continuing funds. So I feel like if we could, if the community could vote on, if on the ballot was this continuing expense for another cop or whatever, I bet you there would be really strong support for that stuff, more than one-time capital expenditures in some circumstances. So I feel like we're missing that in PB. So I it's unfortunate that we have to make this, that you have to make this choice between only capital or.
I would agree because not only are you missing out on that, but then if I agree to go this route of PB, I'm also losing that opportunity to do it. So then I don't even have that opportunity to be your voice to say, there's some ongoing funds. So yes, I would agree with you. I don't think it's perfect, and I definitely think it can be improved. My fear is that if we stop doing it now after this first year, it's going to be much harder to try and bring back in subsequent years. And I just kind of felt like the sacrifice that I'll make right now hopefully will improve in the future. And that's one of the requests that I'm thinking about writing within the document, is that if we're going to go PB this next year, that I didn't want to have to be put in the same situation next year. And I don't think any council member should be put in that situation where if we want to use a couple $100,000 for participatory budgeting capital projects, that shouldn't preclude us from asking.
When do you have to make your decision about make this decision by?
Not until I put in a document, which is not until May, late April.
Okay, so you can also see how the voting. I mean, it'd be interesting to see just how strong the turn. I mean,
if this completely fizzles and
right, that may answer the question.
Yeah, that may answer the question. If it looks like people are just done with PB and they're disappointed, and that's why I wanted to get your input now, because I was under the impression that there would be a lot of enthusiasm. I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that you guys are saying, well, there is enthusiasm, but you see the catch and you see the trade-off there. So I don't know if there's any other new or and then we'll go back.
Yeah, so I think there are some procedural things that could help, and we can send a little summary of what our experience was and what we think would be beneficial. So for example, it may be having a little bit more lead time, but the department heads did get with the program. There had to be a fair amount of pushback to begin with because they were no, or that's not the way we do things. But that when you work with them and you don't go away, then you kind of start getting that level of cooperation. Yeah. So I wouldn't have turnout for this first year be the only thing to judge this, because there was a lot of legwork that had to go into it in a very short period of time. And so I think if we, can kind of educate folks and have more time and have better cooperation to begin with and whatever, I think we'll be able to get a better slate of projects forward. Yeah. And then it just gives you information that you need for other things too. Yeah.
That's true. I don't think it should be only a one-time shot this year, no matter what happens with it. We talked about participation, we talked about enthusiasm, and what we were concerned about is because people put in all these projects that their wish list, they want it, and then it gets chopped down to only 20, whatever we've got. Out of all those that they put in, they don't see theirs in there, then they're going to get the response why they didn't get theirs in there, and we hope it doesn't discourage them. You know, and then on top of that is when, you know, they put in these things and then they don't get on the ballot. Let's say they get on the ballot, then the next level of the discouragement is when they don't get voted in, they don't have enough votes to do it. So those are the things you need to think about when you say, did it really work, did it not? These are the things that we were concerned about when we were going through this vetting out process of the proposals.
I just want to know if you do get an increase of 200,000. This is allocated for 100,000. Can you just have that the additional 100,000 sit there for as needed and other things that you might need for District 3?
This would be a 200,000 on top of this 100,000.
Yeah, but I mean, that's already decided as
Yeah.
what the items are.
Yeah.
So the additional 100,000, where is that going to be allocated?
It's actually additional 200,000.
Oh, additional 200,000.
Yeah, so it would be, this would be, the projects that are decided on this in April, that's done, and we would start anew, June 1st, new budget, $200,000.
Allocated for the next
Same
PB?
for the next PB.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was
No,
being,
it wouldn't even have to do with any of these projects.
so it just sits there for 2016.
We would start this
17.
process again,
Next
kind of
year.
like we did last year.
Okay.
Although part of the momentum, right, is that we wouldn't need to go through as much learning phase as we
Right.
did this year. We'd have people knowledgeable about it. We'd have city staff knowledgeable
Yeah,
about it, right? The hope would be this next year it would move a lot more smoothly. We'd have more budget, right? At least double the budget for the next year, which would mean probably a lot of the projects maybe that were more than 100,000. If they were under 2, then
Yeah.
maybe they'd be, now we can get some of the same projects that were submitted this year that were, if they were under $200,000, they may be able to be, just resubmitted. Somebody can just resubmit their project idea. So
There's always that issue, I can't help but say it, that funds start moving around. And, as you need it. I don't mean you personally, but, that's how the game works. If something else comes up and you need the funds.
these are done. These are
Well,
committed and done. So
We
yeah.
are worried that the next level of worry is when whoever department gets it, they want to change the work order, alter the work order. And that's our fear, that's my fear next,
Yeah.
is that we want this trailer, this guy, because we've done all this work.
Yeah.
We know how much it costs, go out and buy it, San Jose.
Yeah.
You know?
I think
I
it's
get
a-
worried, well, we
yeah.
don't really buy that when we buy this one over here.
I think it's a legitimate fear, but again, the city manager's been working closely on this with us, right? So has the
Okay.
mayor's office, and they all know that in order for this to be successful, right? I mean, those are the kind of things that we've said since the beginning. Is if our community spends all this time and we vet these projects and we vote on these projects and then we present a project and then city staff says, actually we can't do that, or that.
You didn't mean this, you meant that.
Yeah,
then-
that's where I'm gonna be pissed
Yeah,
off.
me too.
Then-
All that
me too.
work
Yeah,
with me,
then-
then they'll say, oh, I wanna do participatory budgeting.
Yeah, I would feel the same way, right? So yeah, I would agree. So-
Would the mayor be at all flexible about allowing you to submit for the essential services the operating component of a project that has been voted on or goes forward in the capital? So,
Well,
when
that's
it's
a good idea.
when it's a blended sort of thing, so that you can't submit anything new, but you can submit a small amount of operating through that, because you can't do it all through PB.
Mhm.
So would they, so that may be
Yeah.
future conversation, but it would be nice if we didn't have to reject a PB project that was within a budget, minimal operating cost, but just didn't have a mechanism for funding the operating portion of that.
Even if we can say funded for 3 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
put that in the PD budget,
It
I
would
really,
be. It could be a conversation we can have in the future.
Yeah.
It would be potentially at the moment. No. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
My concern is that in the essential funding, I mean, no one can look into the future.
Yeah.
It's like, suppose there is something
Yeah.
that you're needing funding for,
Yep.
like the other councilmen do, then you're out of luck. That's the way I look at it.
Yes, that's what happened with recession, right? It was like
Yeah.
a lot of money went away. so council has to go and say, what things do we cut? And this probably one of the first things they've said, oh, no PB here. So that doesn't mean anything that's previously been approved, like this $100,000. That was from last year's budget. Already approved, money essentially already spent. So we can't go and take that back. Even if there were to be a recession happening this year, that money in the books is spent. So it's not like we can just go and go, ooh, you know what? We said we spent that, but they really haven't finished PB yet, so they haven't spent it.
Yeah.
They can't do that. So, and we've never done that. I mean, if the money has been on the books is spent, then it's spent. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the great update.
Yeah.
Thank you
So-
for the conversation.
So provide me
Yeah,
feedback
yeah.
if you have it. I am leaning towards
Yeah.
going the PB route again. So
I think you need to talk to them about that, the other, besides it being capital improvements only, I think. you need
and that too, I would like to
Yeah.
improve it too, just to see if
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.